Good Monday morning! Today we're going to take a look at Observable, which is a service that provides interactive JavaScript playbooks with observable dependencies. It's I better just show it to you, to be honest. I am MPJ and you are watching Fun Function. In case you are wondering why I am wearing a hat, it's because I live in Sweden, and right now in Sweden things are insanely cold. Like, so cold that you get angry. So cold. I actually have a heater, like what's it called, a space heater in my little studio here, but I can't keep it running while I'm recording, so I'm covering myself with textiles. All right, so what is Observable? If you are familiar with IPython playbooks, then it's basically that, except that it's in JavaScript, of course, and it's hosted software as a service, so you don't need to mess with setting it up. And it also has is aware of its dependencies and will dynamically recalculate itself when a dependency has changed, which has huge implications for the entire playbook system and makes it so much more powerful than IPython playbook. Ever since I tried IPython playbook many years ago, I have wanted this specific product. And I am so happy that it's finally created, and it's amazing, and it's going to be huge. This is not a sponsored video. They have not even asked me to make this. This is just a product that I am incredibly excited about. All right, so this is a playbook. If you are not familiar with IPython playbook, it's probably just better to just show you what it is. It's kind of like JS Fiddle or CodePen, but it's instead you write things in little cells that depend on each other. Playbooks are almost exclusively used to mine data and visualize data sets. So you're like, okay, we have this database of users and we need to figure out daily active users and we need to display a graph of that, that kind of thing. It's kind of like an Excel on superpowers. Blah, 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 blah. Let me show you what it looks like. This is Observable. I've just created a notebook. So you see here that there's a markdown block here. So this evaluates to whatever I write here in markdown. Hello, Observable. And I just hit Shift Enter and it renders. And I can just keep typing here and it will, render this nicely, which is kind of cool. You can write, like document whatever it is that you're working with at the moment. Make your playbook pretty for the future generations. So these URLs, after you publish them, are shareable. Observable is a very early product. I know that they are working on private playbooks and teams, but for now, all the playbooks that you publish are either public or private. There's nothing in between. So you can write JavaScript, 5 plus 5, Shift Enter, is 10. And you can also assign variables. So I can do, I hate these kinds of variable names, but I'm gonna assign foo, and then I can refer to those variables from other cells. I just created a new cell here, and I'm gonna do foo plus 25. That evaluates to 35. This so far is not very impressive. This is exactly what IPython playbook does, but let me show you this. Let me change this to 8 and hit Shift Enter. Notice that this fucker here updates. let me change that again. See that this live updates here. And that is not because the entire playbook re-renders all the time. No, it's because this cell is aware of its dependency on this. There are some cool implications with that, but I'm going to show you how to declare a function first. So let's say that I declare a function and we call it hello, and I'm going to do, let me just do this is going to return a promise, new promise. And this promise, how do you do promises? Okay, it takes a function and it's a resolve function. And that resolve function is going to be called with hello. Let's just call this greeting instead, to be honest. And I don't want it to be called immediately. I want it to be called after a second. Set timeout. And then it's going to resolve, and then it's going to resolve after a second. That's cool. So let's see if that evaluates. No, unexpected token. One parent's too much. Cool. See that now greeting is a function. So if I just call greeting, you see that after a second there, it updates to hello. So you see that Observable is very much aware of the concept of promises and will kind of just figure this out. So I can actually assign this to a variable. Just call it current greeting. There, bam. And then I'm going to let me reference current greeting from here. Current greeting. You see, okay, that evaluates to hello 25 because JavaScript doesn't make sense. Let me delete this cell here so that we don't get too confused. I would really like drag and drop support here so that I could drag greeting down because the order of these things don't make sense. Perhaps there's a, can I move them somehow? I don't know how to. What's the hotkey for moving? I don't know. There's probably some. Oh, there. Cool. Now, have a look at this when I change hello here to bye. And it updates after a second. Notice how sleek this is, that the environment is aware of promises and constantly reevaluate them all the time. It's just so incredibly sleek to work with. Let me refactor this thing to be a delay function. Delay milliseconds, and we're gonna call it there, and then it's gonna be... Now, so delay is now a function that returns a promise that resolves after a certain amount of milliseconds. And as you see here now, these cells that depend on having that the function greeting exists, they are now broken because, you know, that makes sense. So there's this concept in Observable called blocks. I think they're called blocks, whatever. And I want to call this numbers. And I'm going to create a block. So this is not an object literal that I'm creating now. This is a block. So this can do return 10. So blocks are kind of, you can think of them as probably ifs. Like it's just, it's like a function that is immediately evaluated. So you can, it's kind of like an implicit like this. This is kind of what it looks like. But it also has, it's kind of like an implicit async function as well. So I can just, if I do this, delay 1000, and I just say await, and then return 10, all right, 17, and I'll play that. See that, oh, it waits a second, and then it returns 17. And it's also an implicit generator. Wait, what? I'm gonna let that sink in a bit, because I didn't even know that asynchronous generators was a thing. And it's amazingly useful in the context of data analysis. Let me show you. Let me do a while. True. And we're going to do let I equals 0. And we're going to wait for 100 milliseconds. And then we're going to do I plus plus. And then we're going to yield I. And gonna run it. Look at that. That is so cool. And of course, I can depend on this. So let me delete this cell here and just say like, I can do hello plus numbers. And see that this dynamically reevaluates. It might be that you are not familiar with generators or asynchronous functions. Then this is wow, mind-bending to you. You might want to check out my episode on generators here. I also made a video on async await that you will probably find very interesting. So check those out if this confuses you, because this is going to be way more confusing later. All right, besides just being cool, is there something that we can actually use this for? Let me show you. So there's an endpoint that I have on the Fun forum, which is the private forum for patrons, where people can, in their profile, just insert arbitrary JSON, and this is exposed through an endpoint that all other forum members can use. So you can use this to kind of create dumb services without my involvement. Let me just show you what it looks like. So I'm just gonna run that. Okay, if I just fetch it, it gives a response object, which is not very useful to us. Let me evaluate. We can actually do a block here and await this fetch. Put it into a response, and then we do a body. You know what? We can do this. Response.json, and we just return that. Whoop. All right. So we get some. This is what it looks like. It's just a username on the left side, and then maybe JSON on the right side. So members are highly encouraged to insert stuff that will break the applications of other users. Let me close that for a bit. Let's have a look at my JSON. So I want to, let's assign this to a variable. We're gonna call it all data. Worst variable name. I'm gonna create a new cell. I'm gonna do all data and check out my user, which is mpj. So here's some JSON. This is just a JSON string. So let me do a JSON parse. Parse that out. Okay, looky. Here's an object. So this is a pretty cool thing. There is, I can show you actually. Let's go to funforum.com. And there is a show you. There's this pretty cool map that Valis has made, which is he's a moderator on the Fun forum. It's currently broken because I just rewrote this endpoint. But it basically shows you all the locations of members of the Fun forum that has put their stuff in the hackable JSON endpoint. So here's my location. It's in Gothenburg, and you need to place it in the user map location. That is what the app expects you to do. Let's actually have a look at that. So this is my location. Let's do user map location. Blam, there. Now, it would be pretty cool if this location was live updating when I updated it on the forum. What I mean by that, let's actually go to my user profile, and I just change my caption here to Götmos lululululul oops, and save changes, and go back to observable, and you know, I just re-evaluate this cell here, and you see that lulululul. It would be cool if I didn't have to do that, if there was some way of us to listen to the changes and have this thing update live. Turns out that there is. The first thing that I want to do is we're gonna assign this to a variable. I'm gonna call it let or user map. Yeah, user hash, so that we don't confuse ourselves. And we need to await that. Let me return user hash so that we can see what we're thinking about. Yes, it still looks good. Now, there's actually a WebSocket endpoint. The way you do a WebSocket is new WebSocket. Let it do. And you copy this is the endpoint. You're right. So it's WebSocket secure, and it's fun automator, herokuapp.com, hackable. Basically the same thing as this endpoint, but just WebSocket. And we're gonna call this socket. Socket. And then we're going to socket on message. And this gives us a function, or we give it a function, and that the function accepts an event, and console.log. We can't. You know what? I'm going to do this in a separate block, so that we can think about one thing at a time. Bonk, bonk. There we go. There we go. Oh. We're going to console log out event.data. We're going to go data is event.data, and we're going to run that, or start running that. Let me dump up the console here. Data is ping, ping. All right, yeah. So it pings us every, seems like it sends ping as data every 5 seconds or so. Let me change my profile. Change it back to not lululul. What is happening? It's doing some weird auto completing here, which I don't want it to do. There. Oh my God! What is happening? Mac OS X is confused about what this field is. Okay, let's have a look. And you see here that we now get sent the new the updated user here. So we want to update this all data objects cache with that, and then feed that up to this here. So how do we do that? Well, if I look at the all data endpoint, we could start yielding things here because it's a generator. But in order to do that, we need to be able to kind of wait for the stream or for the data, and there's no way of us to do that. So I want to refactor this to be a kind of promise. We're gonna call this function next, and and it's going to return a new promise. That resolves. And boom, boom, boom. There we go. And on the message, we're going to if event.data, it's not the ping, because we don't care about the ping. We just want the user updates. Then we're going to resolve it with event.data. Let's have a look at that. Let's call it let's call this a function, and let's call it start streaming, something like that. And then let's jump to this one, and we do so. Let's create a block. Let's assign next to the function that is returned from start streaming. See what this looks like. And then we return next. What happens? Nothing is happening. Oh, it makes sense because there's no user updates. Let's update. And I just lul. And oh, sorry about that. Save changes. See what we get something. Oh, we did. Boom. So now this next function will return the next thing in the stream. So if I actually just JSON.parse, and I need to await this as well, otherwise, because JSON.parse wants an actual value, not a promise. See what this looks like, and I'm gonna update my profile again, move lululul, and save the changes. And now you see here, oh, it's a JSON object. I can close this because we know it works. Now I want to, because this is just doing this once, I want to make sure that this does it, like shows it as we update. So let's just call this me, and then me dot let's have a look. We actually want to parse out the hackable JSON. We're gonna call this hackable. I'm gonna do me dot hackable JSON. I'm gonna do JSON parse. It's JSON within the JSON. It's all very confusing. Hackable dot user map location, and what do we have? Want the caption. Let's return that. What happens? And let me update it again. Stuff. The mandatory. And it was an unexpected end of JSON input. Why is that? That confuses me a bit. Perhaps it isn't valid JSON. Let's actually check it. Perhaps I messed it up. Let me paste this into a new cell. Yeah, I think I deleted I accidentally deleted a curly bracket thing at the end. So actually let me fix that. There. Curly, what? Curly bracket. All right, so now instead of having this stream just once, I want it to be a generator. So I just do while true. And I'm gonna do paste this inside of the while true. There we go. And now instead of returning, we're going to be yielding. So yield just is kind of like a pausable return. It's kind of like instead of terminating, the function just pauses. Just, hey, I'll give you whatever is running me, the generator, up some value, and then I'm going to continue running. File out here. And I'm going to change this string here to get moves back again. And I'm going to hit save and take a look here. And you see that, boom, it updates. Let me do that again. La la la. Say that again. And it updates. And you know, we could call this label. Let's now actually integrate this into the all data thing. So instead of returning the user hash here, we're going to yield it. And then we are going to start, I'm going to do next, I'm going to start streaming. Grab this, actually, and go back to all data. While we're true, we have this, we're going to update the user hash. And we're going to grab like me.username. And we're going to assign that with the hackable JSON because that's how it's structured. And once we're done with that, we are going to yield the entire user hash. And we no longer need this. Bam. Let's actually delete these observable numbers as well because they have been distracting us for long enough. And here, let's just call this mpj. And as we see here now, this refers to like all like mpj in the all data hash. So like if you remember, like this is a hash of all the users. And now we're referring to mpj and the user map location here. So before this was now like we had to refresh for this to update. However, if all of this works now, I should be able to change this here and save changes, and this should live update, and it does. See that? I'm just gonna save again. Boom, and it's updates. I'm gonna publish this this notebook here so that you can play around with it. Just find it in the link in the episode description. I think that this is very cool. Observability makes so much sense for a playbook environment. It's so easy to work with. JavaScript is also stupendously useful for stuff like this. It's really good at it. By the way, something that I haven't even showed you is that you can just pull in NPM modules here, like Lambda or, you know, whatever you need. You can also render Google Maps and HTML right into here so that you can visualize this map and like do all kinds of shenanigans. It's really, really nice. You're probably going to see me doing quite a bit of more observable stuff over the coming months because this is a product that I'm very excited about. I hope you found that useful. If you're confused, please post questions down below, or if you're a patron, you can post it on the dedicated discussion topic on the Fun forum by clicking here, or in the link in the episode description. If you are new, welcome! You have just watched an episode of Fun Function. I release these every Monday morning, 0800 GMT. If you are forgetful, you can subscribe here so that you don't miss it, or just watch another episode right now by clicking here. I am MPJ. Until next Monday morning, stay curious.